if they do decide to bring it top. Now I want to see, I expect the Lee Sin pick to come out for V5. Do you also just take away the Sett here? And they do, because, right, you have 2 AD soul laners coming out. Either of these champions can play either soul lane, and it sets up very nicely for PZX to bring out the Diana, the Nidalee, the Lilia. Really, any of these 3 picks are where my attention would go towards. And WE keeping strong with these poke compositions coming out.
Yeah, I mean, the Ezreal, the Jayce, right? Huge range advantage already built up. And Ezreal on Elk again, something that we mentioned earlier on, you know, this is just kind of the go-to. I like that you pulled out the Diana because it becomes a reality. Lyric, you so nicely named it. And dude, we have so much teamfight engage here already for V5.
And it slots in well up against what WE picked out of the 3 AP options that I listed, because when you're up against poke, they're looking for those champions that can find the flanks, that can find the all-in opportunities, be extremely decisive, get off all the bursts. So you do have a lot of setup coming out for her so far with the Sett. You know, Stride Breaker, Flash Ultimate into a Face Breaker is going to give you that big kind of swab of people where you go in, use that ult, and you're able to chunk them down quite low. You want to see V5 keep up that theme in their bottom lane. So Varus still left open. I don't know if WE want to ban that one out right now, because that would be my go-to answer. I think something that does bring more engage and all in, I think you do have a lot of options with that, because not only do you have the champions that bring utility in their ultimates, but you also could even always default to a Kaisa or Tristana that are able to jump in and follow the charge. So maybe Kaisa being the thing that I would expect is most likely, with Varus being off the table.
I like that as well, right? You know, especially when they're all rounded up and Kaisa can position around in the fight and play as versatile as that AP assassin in the jungle. It was already hovered a little bit there. Remember, V5 have that last pick available, so with an AD already picked up for WE, maybe they get support priority, take it away from missing, and get the Solar Flare as another form of engage.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised they wanted to take this one away first, so it shows that this is the most high priority support in their mind with finding those guaranteed engages. I guess it does make sense with, you know, the Zenith Blade. You then have the stun coming up, you have the solar flares coming out from a range, because you do need ranged engage coming out. Sure, you can always bank on something like a Nautilus hook or trying to flash in with a Rel, but if you aren't able to close that distance, that's just going to fall flat on its face. Elk going to bring in the Alistar, so now WE having a bit of engage if they do want to try and re-engage on the back end of kiting out the side of WE, and also offering the disengage with the headbutt.
Yeah, I mean, disengage feels like it's the most important part out of that. Mole had a banger game on the Zoe in game number 1. It's banned away this time, so he returns to the Twisted Fate. A lot of pick potential there now created, and a lot of ability to attack that top lane of Breathe has just been created. But I want to talk about V5 first here, Lyric. I want to see what AD they round out with. You mentioned the Kaisa and how it fits into this comp, but a lot of ADs available that are quite relevant right now.
I would still expect the Kaisa. I think it's something that makes the most sense with the way that Victory 5's team comp wants to play out. We saw the Jhin Hover. That's something else that can work, but they are just going to opt into this in the end. Okay. And once again, we have very clear styles that I think reflect similarly to Game 1, where V5 want to be the ones leading the charge. They are going to be, I think, aggressively grouping up, looking for some of these picks. A lot of synergy between mid-jungle and just jungle in the soul lanes overall, with the damage profiles coming out, with the fact that Invincible can find the ward hop into a kick, or Uniboy can flash Face Breaker and set up for PZX. For WE early on, I think you're just going to play out your laning phases pretty independently. At the level 6 mark, we know we're going to be looking for those Destinies coming out from Mole a lot more aggressively than they did the other day. But this composition comes online once we are grouped up in front of objectives, looking for deep wards in choke points in the enemy jungle, so you can recreate what you did in Game 1.
I like that, because playing around some of those chokes as well with Twisted Fate, Rumble there too, and the Jayce and Ezreal at range, just seems like so easy, and again, recreates what we saw. I like that we do have similar compositions, or at least similar ideas coming through, because V5 in game number 1, if you guys missed out, V5 had a pretty decent early game. PZX was super proactive on the Xin Zhao. Changing around into game 2 though, Lyric, Diana comes through, has that partial, not engage, but has a good gap close now with the Lunar Rush being put into the E of her kit. Waits for the 6 though for that Moonfall, where she becomes impactful around some of these skirmishes. But still, I mean, I'm looking for PZX in this early game and how he can match Beishang and get into some of these lanes.
The thing is, we don't expect him to be as aggressive as he was that first time around, right? Because you just hit on it. He is on the Diana. He is waiting for that level 6 mark for a lot of his burst and damage potential to come out. That's also where a lot of the setup will start being for the side of Victory 5 with the Showstopper on Uniboy, the Solar Flare coming out for ZYF. So I think we should have a more tamed first 6 to 8 minutes of the game, barring any shenanigans in 1v1 or 2v2 situations.
Well, let's find out. Welcome to Summoner's Rift for the second time. For some reason, the sky is red. It is dawn of the last day. And, well, actually, we are just in WE's home arena. I should be used to this by now. As we come on in, WE now on the blue side. We already talked about the drafts. I hope you put that into your brain, locked it away, sealed it in. And we have pretty standard runes on the screen as well. Just note that it is Dark Harvest for Beishang, which, okay, let's be honest, is pretty much the go-to. But Mole on the unsealed spellbook in the Twisted Fake, as we most often see.
Right, you definitely don't need any type of laning rune on the side of Twisted Fate. Going to go to something that brings you more utility around the map and later on, especially with how much value you do get out of using things like the teleport and then, you know, having that ability to switch to something else. And talking about the mid lane matchup overall, it is pretty, I'd say, non-interactive. Mole does have opportunities where he can trade on Uniboy and try to tether out that range if he does walk too far forward, but we know Uniboy, if he can find an all-in, if he can walk up with Q and then hit a face breaker, he will win out in trades ultimately, but 4v5 to me, it's a lot more about that mid-jungle duo and bringing PZX in the mid lane to try to punish.
I'll be watching the jungle path as Elk just gets absolutely brutalized by Kepler and ZYF. That was the start of the Zenith Blades, so nice little trade here from V5's bottom lane to start us off.
And this is what you expect, right? You have Kaisa Leona up against an Ezreal and Alistar. Alistar not providing really anything at all at level 1. Ezreal, despite all the changes, still isn't the most dominant laner, so he will get pushed into Kepler with the fact that he does bring out his Q, but WE actually being the ones trying to find an early start with this game.
That's gold card. Uniboy has the flash available, might just have to burn it, and Beishang threatens him away. That'll lead him to topside Scuttle Crab and give Mole a bit of reprieve, or at least put Uniboy in a dangerous position.
Well, I think that's good because, I mean, obviously taking flash is good, but it's good for more reasons in the sense that Uniboy can win trades if he finds those all-ins. So now you have this 5-minute window where maybe once we do at the level 6 point for Uniboy and PZX, you don't have to worry about the flash facebreaker coming out, setting up for PZX to find the kill on the Mole.
True.
Because that's what we saw punishing Mole's Twisted Fate the other day, was he was just getting flashed on by all-in champions, just instantly deleted. So Uniboy not going to have as many options until that flash comes back up, or once he is able to pick up the Stride Breaker, but you would assume that flash is going to come up first.
Also means that for someone like Mole as well, you know, a partially safer laning phase too. He'll get to 6, he'll be able to move across the map, and there's going to be less result from someone like Uniboy being able to stop that. So level 4 here on Mole, we wait for the 6, we wait for the Destiny. And Lyric, I have to ask you at that 6 point, and when Beishang gets 6, do you start playing to stop the skirmish, to stop the engage from V5 if they want to start tussling, or do you look for a lane to hit like Breathe on this Jayce in the top side?
Early on, you're definitely utilizing the Destiny to just keep accelerating Breed's advantage. We can see WE are already playing towards that. Beishang making his way up there now. Looks like is just going to go for a recall, make sure nothing comes out. And if PZX was able to look for a gank right now, that he would be in close proximity to answer. But Breed just going to keep dominating in this 1v1, utilizing his range advantage well and pushing this wave in. So PZX is going to be on the top side of the map now. You would expect him to probably try and look for an opportunity once he is finished with these Krugs, but with the fact that WE have the ward, probably nothing to happen on the top side of the map.
Another ward down here as well. It's ward for ward on the Krug camp, and a lot of LPL teams really nice with the timers at the moment, I've noticed, as vision control for both teams working out, which means that both junglers are going to be spotted out in full vision control for both V5 and WE. You mentioned the CS advantage up in the top side, and I want to point out that while game 1, Breathe didn't really have a bad game, he was on the Viego against the Lee Sin. It was a harder matchup. He wanted to scale up. Now here on the Jayce, we see what Breathe does with such an enhanced laning phase, and such a good time all around, I guess.
I mean, and this is the style that he thrives on. Mole gonna get ganked. He does a flash up.
Flash for flash, shield of daybreak. Zenith Blade comes in. Here's Beishang to the rescue. And down goes the mid laner for V5. Uniboy is the first blood. Mole follows up and the kill goes to ZYF. That's worth the support takes a kill.
Yeah, ZYF doing a nice job of using his back timer to go mid. Looks like WE weren't even conscious of it happening. And it's like, sure, Kepler is by himself in the bottom lane catching a wave under turret, but against Ezreal Alistar, he isn't under too much threat. So we're just going to see how this one pans out. Is able to come out with a gold card, flashes, but he is already hit by the stun. Aftershock damage comes out. Uniboy able to throw in a little bit there as well. So ultimately gonna be a 1-for-1, but yeah, I think Beishang especially feeling extremely good about that one.
That's a blasting one coming right back here as well. Already have the refillable potions. You're looking good here for Beishang now with the equalizer as well, Lyric. And we mentioned what's going to happen at the 6 point. Well, we see Mo has his ulti, but Beishang does too, and he's now been spotted up towards the top side.
Yep, so at least going to be able to try and zone Invincible off some of the CS. You couldn't expect to see a Destiny for Mo at that moment because he was being forced under his turret by Uniboy, so no real opportunities to walk up right now. Uniboy just kind of hovering back.
I mean, Lyric, Invincible walks up every time. I know he's a melee user, but it's just so rough watching this lane from his perspective. 500 gold down, next wave crashing in. He has TP that he'll have to burn to catch it, but a massive wave crashes in yet again. Breathe in a great position. He'll be backing with a serrated Dirk, you know, potential tier if he wants to go that down direction. Caulfield's Warhammer, I mean, there's a lot of gold sitting there right now for Breathe. And yep, there's the tier picked up. And yep, there's the serrated Dirk as well.
To be fair to Invincible in the last trade, right, he knows he's going to look for the back for the Iron Spike Whip, so he's fine losing out on HP to just force out some of those minions. But right now, WE and V5 both hovering around this bottom side of the map. You see that V5 want this engage. PZX does have his ultimate available, so a ton of bursts coming out. The fact that Uniboy has push in the mid lane, his flash is going to come back up once again in just a few seconds. I feel like we're bound to see some action.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Uniboy with the early Merc treads as well, really going against Mole, going against, I'd say, missing as well with the tramples. So a nice little pickup here for the mid laner of V5 as he pushes out the wave, as deep wards were placed in that little rotation as well. And I also want to point out that, okay, Uniboy is actually just going to get caught here. Electro Harpoon number 2 as well. Overheating time. Uniboy will be gold carded. Interrupted though by the ulti. Haymaker just walked back on. Really good pathing here from Beishang. And Breathe. Bit of a kill still, but he TP'd for that, Lyric. He deserves it.
I mean, I think it feels great having it on your Jayce as well. PZX forced to flash. I think he's just going to go down.
Breathe follows as well. It's hammer time! And Breathe doesn't even need to pull it out. Second kill goes over, and you thought top was bad before. Now you should see Breathe when he goes back.
And you know, I can understand the thought process coming out from Uniboy to use a showstopper and be like, okay, I'm not going to get stunned, I'm not going to be hit by the gold card, but you're going even further away from your own jungler who's the one bringing all the damage in that exchange. By that point, PZX knows that it's over, already starts walking back, but with the TPs coming out and PZX being a little bit greedy trying to get those Raptors, leads to a second kill going over for the side of V5.
And I mean, we didn't talk about scaling here, Lyric, but I know the one thing is with the Jayce lane, with any poke comp, with someone that uses Twisted Fate, Destiny to really push the game ahead. This is an early snowball that's going to be really hard to control.
Yeah, the thing is, W are going to have a ton of map pressure, right? Because Breathe is going to be able to continuously push out his wave now. You'd expect WE to want to start posturing for that top side turret, maybe look for a Rift Herald, break those plates open, and then Breathe can start hovering around mid, helping Mole get good resets to where maybe Mole can start using that Destiny towards the bottom side of the map, or just keep punishing Lee Sin on that top side. So WE going to have a lot more options right now. I think V5 are still in a fine spot. They are 1k gold down, but we hit on that their composition comes a lot more online when it is comboed up. Sett going in with Diana, ZYF leading the charge with that solar flare. Kepler able to follow up with his killer instinct as well.
And the problem is if you approach someone like WE now, and if this continues to progress with Herald going down, if Breathe gets that gold advantage too, then by the time you approach, your health bars are already half gone, and people like Elk and Mole can finish it up. So I definitely see there's always going to be a counterpunch with WE having the gold lead, especially with the Night Harvester just picked up for Beishang. Lyric on the other side, though, I like that PZX is trying to be proactive. It was ZYF before, but now it's this Diana who's trying to stagnate WE and even keep the Twist of Fate, keep Mole within the lane.
They were hoping Mole would walk forward, try to find that flash face breaker onto the engage, but still, with PZX hovering, it allows him to just find Cryo, which he would have anyway. We've seen it this whole lane. Once you get past the first few levels and those first backs come off with things like the Merc Treads, you can pretty much just ignore the Twisted Fate. But here on the top side, ZYF and Invincible wanting to get the shutdown on Breathe.
Remember, he doesn't have the Eclipse. He's so close after Breathe picked up those kills, so the burst is not as big as you'd expect, but still a lot of damage going down to Invincible. ZYF gets spotted out, Breathe just walks away, trying to punish that no-flash Jayce, who pulled that summoner out in the last fight.
Ooh, Kepler does have flash, so I think he's fine. They are just going to let him get away. They don't want to overcommit on this wave. PZX is heading down, though, but I still don't think this is a fight V5 can opt into.
Well, no, they definitely can't. Goodbye. PZX doesn't even get the Moonfall. He Luna rushes back to the moon.
Yeah, it is rough, right? Mole being very quick to pull the trigger on that Destiny, setting up for that kill, coming out for Breathe. And this is what you expect, right? In this composition, Mole and Missing are the facilitators. Your big damage dealers are the other three. But that's another nice thing for the side of WE, right? Is that they have so many players who are able to step up and carry a game on this roster. They're going to turn that into a turret on the bottom side.
Oh, no.
I don't think V5 have the damage to look for any kind of engage here. They do throw out the Solar Flare, but without the Diana, I definitely don't think they win that one, especially at a numbers disadvantage.
They will just move to Dragon, though. There is no ward on this for V5. It's Uniboy who puts one over the wall. Beishang still opting not to do that, as Elk and Missing might just actually go back to lane here with nothing but a hair that'll push down the turret. I'm not sure if that's a phrase or not. More so that there's a bit of wind that'll send the turret away. Yeah, it's probably not. V5 starting the Dragon, though, Lyric.
V5 throwing out all the poke that they want, but still not able to go for this. Equalizer does come out.
Missing sets up the engaged face breakers there. Elk Arcane shifts away. Meanwhile, that's the showstopper in. V5 with a chance as Haymaker and the Scuttle Crab all in for the biff here. The Scuttle unfortunately ends up siding with WE, and Breathe picks up yet another kill. Elk cleans up ZYF as well. And even though V5 had a great engage, the damage at this point is huge from that solo carry.
I mean, the big thing is, right, we didn't even get to see the Moonfall come out from PZX. And
True.
That is where the big burst of damage from V5 is going to come from. Is this Diana going in, getting her combo off, landing her ultimate, chunking out some of these squishy members, and then allowing for someone like Kepler to follow up and clean up the kills. So V5 are the ones who get the Dragon. We see the Equalizer come up, which forces Kepler and Invincible not even to be able to get in range of doing any damage. Uniboy coming around trying to hit that massive engage, but PZX was chunked out so early on, he's not really able to follow in. And despite the fact that the Equalizer wasn't really visually pleasing, it didn't just sit on top of any members of V5 for a long time, you saw Kepler wasn't able to walk back into the fight. He walked up, and then he was zoned out from there forward, not able to dish out any damage and help out his big engage tanks.
It's another thing that, you know, this comp does really well, right? There's a lot of zone control. It's not just the Equalizer. The poke damage as well is a portion of zone control. We know that Mole as well controls zones because he's Twisted Fate. And the Alistar creates some of that engage. So I think there's a lot of good things here for WE using the comp well again. And on the side of V5, Lyric, it's a great point that you bring out that PZX wasn't able to use the ulti there, because you could probably see a different world where after Uniboy's engaged, it's all tallied together. But unfortunately, V5 fall behind. A 3k gold lead here for WE once turret plating falls. And first items coming across the board. Look at the side of WE. Everyone has a mythic where it's only 2 on the side of V5.
And V5 are just so massive right now, right? 3k gold lead on their side. They're going to contest for this blue buff in the bottom half of the map. We see Invincible's making his way down for the side of V5, so WE are going to back off. But Breathe does have TP, so don't ever think it's actually a numbers advantage for the side of V5.
He's got a free laning phase in the top side right now. Invincible, believe, was spotted out walking down too, so that turret will just be pushed down pretty quickly. Mole has the Destiny again to see if he wants to go and make some map movements, while Beishang has done his own. He's already towards the bottom side, spotted out on that control ward in front of Dragon, and when turret has no HP, WA just want to take it down.
Yeah, and that's all W are doing here. They're just dedicating 3-man towards the bottom side to force V5 under turret so they can take this one down. They aren't necessarily looking for a fight or engage. They'll probably get this and then start making their way towards the top half of the map, would be my guess, because Herald is about to come up. But Mole with the Destiny hovering towards top side.
Well, Breathe is chasing. Destiny, you said it, Lyric. Lockdown, Everfrost through, auto attack. Invincible lucky to get away, but the flash from Breathe. He lines it up, and heaven comes a-knocking for Invincible once again.
Yep, that was definitely not so close. It was just close enough for the side of WE. We saw Mole hovering open over Breathe with the big trade to start that one off. Invincible was able to flash away from the Everfrost root coming out, but still, accelerated Shock Blast just seals the deal. And this will be another turret for the side of WE, so just cracked open the bot turret, now going to crack open the top turret as well. Beishang is picking up the Rift Herald, and V5 are posturing a little bit around mid lane right now, maybe hoping they can find some sort of pick, or just take away some jungle camps for PZX.
But I like that Elk and Missing are very, suspicious to the play, right? They're not overcommitting, they're not face checking here, take the safe route to put a control ward down. And so V5 have to back away while PZX starts the Krugs, and they know that Beishang's towards his top side, but the problem is, even people like Mole in a very good position with 1.5 items. Missing an Elk as well can really set up for a pick, so respect being paid here for V5, but Lyric, it's a 5k gold lead at this point. Everything's going right for WE, and they're having a much better second game. Remember, game number 2, couple of mistakes caught out in rotation. WE's early game wasn't as good as V5's for game 1.
No, and now we expect to see WE start heading down towards that bottom side of the map, dragging up in 20 seconds, start retaking some of this vision on the bot side. Lucky for WE, even if they do miss some wards, we actually don't have any TPs up for the side of V5, so don't expect any TP flank shenanigans coming out from Invincible or Uniboy. Right now, V5 are the ones with control of River, but Mole's pushing up bot side. One of the great things about TF is you never really have to worry about retaking vision in an enemy quadrant, because you do have that Destiny to come out to spot everyone, and big equalizer.
Yeah, Missing has found the outlier as well. Uniboy over the wall. He'll get the haymaker down, but dude, it was an acceleration gate, a shock blast, and a bit of fire coming out of the back of Rumble's whatever's going on down there. So WE force them away, and they'll get their first dragon of this game too.
And for WE, it doesn't even matter if you don't find the kills in the end. You force them off the objective. You get back to pushing out your waves. We see Mole bot. We see these members of WE mid. Accelerated Shock Blast. You have the Rift Herald. Right now, you are just pulling the members of V5 apart. And for V5, I mean, right, you're hoping for a miracle at this point. You're hoping that the key members of WE overextend, as actually V5 are the ones overextending.
Yeah, V5, I was going to say, well, WE hoping for the same, because thank you for Invincible. He walks in, almost chunked out, almost dies, and Herald gets the second charge towards the mid lane. Look at this, poked down, trying to get it again. You know what? I think Elk was watching. Who was it, Lyric? Who got it? You and Munchables were casting. I'm trying to think.
It was LWX.
It was LWX's Ezreal, that's right. Elk's obviously, been watching that clip. Hoped to get his own there, but unfortunately,
hey, to be fair, all of FPX's members were like pinging and timing that out as well. So that was a team effort on the FPX one. Still super cool for LWX.
So
yeah, but to walk you through the win condition of V5 at this point, what V5 are hoping for, as maybe I pause, maybe Breathe goes too far. What V5 are hoping for at this point is Breathe walks forward. You have Uniboy showstopper Breathe into both Elk and Beishang. He hits a face breaker. PZX is in perfect position to combo in with his ultimate. They're all low. Kepler ults in, gets the triple kill, and that's how V5 takes it all.
Okay, so that sounds like very specific conditions that are going to be very hard to achieve when approaching WE at this point is just a no-no. Less of a no-no, more of an ouch,
Exactly. It is definitely a big ouch coming out for V5 anytime they're close to Breathe, Elk, or Beishang.
But
Mole is on 2 items, but again, Mole's a lot more of a pick potential.
I think that, looking at V5 specific conditions in this game hasn't really changed, right? Like, we still need to see the Sett face breaker. We still need to see a potential flank from someone like Invincible. Get into the backline, set up the engage. Beishang doesn't know he's here, but now walking over a wall. There's the Solar Flare onto Elk. Pulverize, though, is great. Equalizer on top. Mold gets out as well. Invincible now left alone as Breed joins in, and it's turned from a powwow into a hardcore business meeting. We're getting stonks here for WE as another double's picked up for Beishang in the jungle.
Sir, I don't know if you've ever been in any hardcore business meetings, but that was definitely a thrashing going over onto V5 for WE. You have some decent death timers. I don't expect that WE should be able to end this one because only 15 seconds on those members, but you are going to be able to turn this into at least an inhibitor turret. Backs can start coming out, and no. Oh, nope, they do get it in the end. Backs can start coming out. You go towards the top side and play for Baron Vision, but Invincible looking for the flank. I think ZYF combos it with the engage as well onto the Ezreal. They are able to go in, but he does have the stopwatch. Actually, it was Mole who was the one getting engaged on, I'm sorry. And then, I mean, they just don't have the damage to follow up. The stopwatch buying so much time. Also, Uniboy is now dead, and yeah, that is the hardcore business meeting.
That's the hardcore business meeting, man. You know, the difference between a powwow and a hardcore business meeting is stuff gets done. And WE are getting real stuff done. I mean, Uniboy down for 20 seconds. Threatens Baron, threatens mid lane. Look at where Breathe is right now. This has become very one-sided. 11 to 2 kills.
It's PowerPoints, copying documents, giving presentations.
Oh, dude. We've gone past Google Sheets. We're going to old school PowerPoint and Word documentation. And it's on a projector lyric. That's the important part. Big wooden oak table, 20 people sitting there, 3 of them are bald, and PowerPoint's up on the screen. That's the important documentation you need to see. WE have made that all a reality here in this game, and you've got a 2.5 item Rumble, or at least 2 and a bit, 2.5 item Jayce up in that top lane. Divine Thunder, almost Frozen Heart in the bottom lane for Elk as well.
You know what? I don't know why when you say hardcore business meetings, I think of like the office style business meetings where they're very not serious and not business meetings at all and always complete nonsense. But yeah, that's kind of how I more imagine this game.
Yeah, it's well, for a V5 side at the very least, right? It does feel like, you know, the way they've been going into this has been, I guess, not unlucky. I don't want to take that away from them, but they haven't got the engages off that they wanted to see. Before that fight came in the bottom lane, I wanted to, you know, really congratulate you on explaining me how V5 got back in the game, because it was what we asked to see the whole time around. That Diana Moonfall from Uniboy's face breakers or his showstoppers coming through. Just the all-in engage that V5 wanted to run into WE. But props to WE, there's never been a chance in this game where WE have been grouped up, where WE have actually let them run into them. And it's always been playing from afar with these great poke champions. So I think WE, much better grasp on the team comp this time around, but much better grasp on the laning phase and how they wanted to play it as Breed shows up yet again in front of Kepler, and WE running 90% of this map.
Like you said, they've done a nice job at like realizing their win conditions compared to the enemies, because not only just playing from range with poke, but having Mole in the side lane, pulling the enemy apart, getting down this deep vision, realizing if an enemy walks too far forward in their own jungle, you can chunk them out, follow up with a Destiny or with an Alistar combo, and just instantly take them out of the fight.
Okay, missing engaged on in. No one taken for now. Elkar can shift forward in front of a turret. Missing had to burn the locket. Didn't really have to, but he wanted to preserve some of Elk's health, and fair enough, as Invincible on the flank here, spotted out by Ward. Breathe is not, though. Over the wall. Hello? Guess who it is? Shock Blast, Equalizer, Invincible trying to get out there. Flush with the safeguard. ZYF burns his own, but missing. Rocks up to the party. Brings a keg, and WE clap their hands. 5 versus 4. Barons on the map. They're just playing with their food at this point.
I like that Breed was playing from that angle, right? Realizing that someone like Invincible is going to be looking for the flank. Chunks him out with a bunch of damage. They chain that with the Equalizer. He is still able to get away, but ZYF then pretty much is forced to take the brunt of the punishment and then goes down. WE now going to be the team to go straight onto the Baron. PZX does have both Flash and Smite available. You would assume WE would be happy just chaining this into a team fight, but we have no ults up across the board. Arcane Barrage will be up in a few seconds, though.
And that'll just smash through everyone. Mole ready with a gold card, and you see it actually coming in. That True Shot Barrage hurt a little bit as Mole goes in with the Everfrost. The kickback denied by missing once again on this Alistar, absorbing damage, but he goes golden here. Buys the time for his team after getting Baron to nuke everybody else. The showstopper interrupted midway as V5 left with 3 yet again. Excuse me, the Baron wasn't taken because WE decided to pull off and now reattempt.
And I mean, at this point in time, right, 12k gold lead, the damage is just too much on the side of WE. PZX going in, instantly getting deleted. He was there, he was not, it was less than a second. We saw that V5 were trying to find an angle to try and flip this game on its head, but they weren't able to do it. We saw the poke coming out to start this off. Mole then going in, trying to zone away, but the disengage coming out from the Alistar. Look at the equalizer! PZX just gone! The equalizer hits him and he disappears. The other members of V5 follow in on the fight, but it's just not enough.
Oh my god, and meanwhile we just come back to live and Bree's still doing this. Yeah, the equalizer was its own little nuking away, wasn't it? So every ability that lands, every breath that V5 take, you know, WE's watching them. It's going to be WE grouping up towards this bottom side. Now pushing in the side lane with Breathe. Mid has the Baron buff enabled as well. Mole with Destiny, so can position between mid, between bot. You've already talked about it a lot this game, Lyric. And V5 might just have to make a decision on who they engage onto and when.
I mean, Hysterics, it's not even really a decision anymore, right? You're just going in, you're just closing your eyes and hoping for the best. I think what they're going to look for is one member overextending, maybe Elky's in, maybe Breathe walks too far forward, but this game is done and dusted for the side of WE. They can just keep throwing out all this poke, wait for supers to start channeling down into V5's base once they do break down this other inhibitor as well. Use their Baron to power that up and take that as well. But they even have a wave top. Mole even using Destiny to bring that one in. Yep. And V5's base is just going to be overwhelmed now. That
damage is demonic. The Serpent's Fang making a lot of work. Here's the engage from V5. The last stand. A lot of damage comes out, but PZX, he got the Moonfall off this time at the very least, but has to flash away in the end. V5 sitting on the fountain, and Kepler doesn't want to ruin the 000 KDA. In Australia, that means call a bloody ambulance, as V5 definitely getting sent to the hospital. WE thrashing them in game 2, making it a 2-0, and moving up to the top of the table to tie the score.
3-0 here in the LPL so far. This was their most dominant win coming in. Mole definitely having a lot better performance this time around. Breathe and the rest of the squad performing as expected. So WE have a lot of good things going on for them. It's just going to be about seeing, again, how they gel, how fast they can get over some of those growing pains. I like that they have a new dimension to their gameplay around playing around topside. It's nice that they have new dimensions in their draft as well, to where we've seen games where Elk can be a carry. We know Breathe can take over, and you know Mole can step up. So not only can any of your laners pick up a game and bring it across the finish line, Beishang as well, being extremely good. And now we're going to be waiting for the next time we see WE, because WE's next matchup is against FPX. It's against FPX God. 1 week from today.
Oh, dude, why do we have to wait that long? We know that's going to be an absolute banger of a series as well, Lyric. And for WE, yeah, it's interesting, right? I mean, 1 week from today, they have to wait a full week when we've just started the week as well. So a little bit unfortunate, but at the very least, I want to point out what we came into today wanting out of this team. Game 1 gave us a taste of it. Game 2 definitely solidified it. Mole has definitely got back on the right track. I think it's fair to say this was a much better series from him. Even in this second game as a Twisted Fate, he was so solid. He was great in setting up the engages. He played his role, and he didn't overstep in the laning phase, get caught out, and not really respect enemy jungle rotation, and I guess support's coming up as well.
Yeah, we didn't see him make a lot of the same kind of individualistic mistakes that he did make the last time he was on the Twisted Fate, where he was getting caught out quite a bit. This time, comboing very well with his teammates. You saw them synchronizing their waves, right? Whenever Mole was pushing top, they were pushing in mid. They were walking into the quadrant of the enemy jungle, dropping down vision, poking out and trying to turn that into either a Destiny play or an Alistar engage to find the pick, to more securely take the objective. So overall around, it was a good series coming out from WE. For the side of V5, I mean, this team is practically an LDL team, right? Uniboy being the only one who's was in the LPL in the previous split. I don't mean that as a derogatory remark to any of the other players. I feel like our LDL players this split have been absolutely insane. Players like Nani, of course, leading the charge of being impressive. Shouts out Bao, of course, not playing in the last series, but I think he had a very good debut. So yeah, I think there's a lot to be excited for V5 in the future, but this is definitely still an in the future roster. PZX, I think, had a really hype game one and was finding a lot of those opportunities for V5 to get ahead. So definitely some names to look out for.
Let's remember on your point as well, that's exactly what a lot of the time LDL talent come into the league for, is organizations investing in, players that can be stars in the future. It's only some of them that get great opportunities on big teams. I think 369 was a great example coming out of Young Miracles as well, I believe. And back in 2018 made his debut. 2018? No, it was 2019 actually, where he looked like a great player, but just needed time. So yeah, I think there's a lot of stars that can be seen in the future here. I think, Kepler played a stable game too. He didn't do too much, but what can you do when the engage doesn't land and you're the damage source that needs to clean up?
This team's also even more curious, right? Because they're a team that is pretty much an all-rookie team. They have one player that isn't new to the LPL, so it's even harder than, inserting a rookie into like a really hyped or experienced lineup or high-skilled lineup. Thinking of like Yu Yanja last year on Top Esports, or Cream and OMG now getting to play around a lot of guys who've done this for so long. So it feels like for V5 there's a lot more hurdles they need to get over to get to like a decent benchmark and adapt to this new environment than any other team. So, I think we've seen glimpses now, especially in this series, in that game one, of what V5 can possibly do in the future. But this time around, it is just all about celebrating the fact that WE pulled off a clean win and stay undefeated. And they go into their next matchup, I think, with a lot of hype. That next matchup is going to be so much, especially when you have standout players in every lane.
I mean, that feels like that, even though it's midweek, that feels like a potential match of the week, right? We are celebrating WE for good reason, especially after that game too, when it was a bit of a smashing. Beishang you already talked about. I think Breathe as well through the laning phase against the Lee Sin consistently did well up there. Helps when Beishang as well manages to push off and send Invincible packing even further. I want to talk about the bottom lane once again, who were quite solid. I think Missing has had a better start to the split. I'm really impressed because I know that last split, Missing, and even, you could say Jolmong in parts, wasn't too great. Sorry, Elk as he's now named. And that's a shame because I think Missing has the potential to be a top 3 support, especially on things like his Thresh, playmaking supports. Missing is, in my opinion, one of the best supports to end up after the results of WE that kind of fell down after their 2017 Worlds run.
I think he was definitely the worst performing member in Spring Split for the side of WE, right?
Absolutely.
I think a lot of the problems in bot lane laning phase would stem down to misplaying a 2v2, ending up going down first. And then Jolmong is left in a really bad scenario. So, we still haven't really seen any pop-offs come out from him yet this split, but they've had quiet laning phases and they've been set up well for team fights, as we saw in that game one coming out for Elk. So I don't think you can complain much, especially if, from what we're seeing in this meta, we're a lot more towards playing around the solo laners.
Yeah.
And WE definitely look like a team that are thriving in that situation.
As we'll bring up the MVP on your screen, they're thriving, and Breathe is as well. Once again, MVP number 3 in the past 2 series.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if we photoshopped that on, but I mean, I don't think so.
There's no way.
There's no way.
Yep.
We wouldn't do that.
There's no way.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's definitely wearing it. He's definitely wearing it, but now he is tied, for leading the MVP standings with Flandre, Icon, and Yagao. So not too surprising when he is having performances like this on the Jayce, where, I mean, so many of those accelerated shot blasts setting up kills. The one in top lane where he just chunked him out so low, Mole follows up with a Destiny, and he still is able to get it from that long range when it looked like Invincible got away. It was beautiful. This one was a bit of him just kind of coming in and trying to set himself up for a good start. Wasn't exactly needed, but did follow it up with another kill as well. And Breed is going to be a man that whenever WE's on, people are just going to hear us talk about. It's going to be all about Breathe.
Remember when it was early days of Halo and, people are using the assault rifle, the battle rifle, whatever you want to call it. There's always that one guy that gets a rocket launcher. And it's just Breathe in all these fights. He's always late and he's cleanup crew. You just watch him. He comes in and he shoots to kill. I love how he's always on the scene last, manages to pick up the kill, so fed, cleanup crew, all that.